Hello. Well, good evening, Mr.
Hey,
Andrew.
how you doing, man? I guess he is not coming on.
So, yeah, he's getting set up. So,
Okay.
our apologies tonight. Things got screwed up. Clarence apparently will not be on, Clarence Carter. So, but Mr. Ken Gouchi will be on with us in a few. So we'll just talk until he shows up. He said, yeah, I'm setting up. I thought yours was just a voice cast. I didn't know I needed a webcam. Give me a few minutes here.
Okay.
So good to go.
Hey, he's prepared, so that's good. Sort of.
Yeah, somehow I got screwed up, but I'll explain all that when he gets on, so he doesn't.
You know, guys. Hey, if you want to be on our show, man, make the effort. You know, don't take it. One, don't take a nap. Two,
Yeah. So
remember that we're Central Time. Okay. If you're in the East Coast, it's going to be 1 hour difference.
This is like the third time in 2 months. Gunny Claus blew us off on Christmas Eve. What
Thanks, Gunny. Thanks, Gunny.
Yeah, Gunny Claus, you blew us off on Christmas Eve, and you're supposed to be Santa Claus. That other dude blew us off like a couple weeks ago. He fell asleep at his keyboard or something.
Yeah. Marine.
And now Mr. Clarence blew us up. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, you know, we want to talk to you guys. We want to hear your stories. But like we can't do it unless, you know, you're on the show.
This is not a good 2024, man. This is like
Hey,
I don't know. There's some discrepancy on what number episode this is. It's either 97, 98th, or 99th. I don't really know anymore.
I don't know. Spotify says 99. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You're the technical whiz. So
yeah, I've been doing a lot lately, so shit gets away from me, and you know how that goes.
Dude, you're busy, man.
Hey, guess what?
What?
Some exciting stuff happened last night.
What happened?
I was asked to go to the Sounds game on April 5th to escort Gold Star families.
Yeah, you were. Well, so was I. Oh my God. So we're gonna be there with you, me, Ross, and Christopher Lewis. April 5th. We got to be there at 5. We're gonna be escorting Gold Star families to their seats. I don't really know all the details, but I gave you Jay's info, and
yes,
Jay Evans, if you are watching this, we'll be there, man.
And if you're not watching it, why the hell not?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, why aren't you watching this?
Yeah,
it's an awesome podcast.
So the last few months we've been doing pre-recorded shows. Now we're back to doing live shows for a while, probably through the summer, and so we'll see how that goes. Mr. Ken Gouchi just popped into the green room. I'm gonna wait a second here.
Sweet.
There he is.
Awesome.
All right.
Ken, how you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, what's going on, man? Sorry about that. Holy cow!
No,
Ken,
it's all
what's up,
good.
dude?
I kind of screwed up. We're live right now, by the way, so it's all good though. You can swear, you can cuss, you can do
no
anything
politics,
you want.
though.
Just
No
don't
politics.
talk politics.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to stay away from that kind of stuff, but yeah.
Well, so we get on our little tangents about politics, and we just don't want to piss off half the country because we're trying to do a thing here.
Yeah. We're here to hear what your story, what you bring.
Well, that's actually my story. Is I actually am trying to piss off half the country. So,
hey, well, listen, this is your hour. So if you want to talk politics, go for it, man.
Yeah.
No, I actually hate talking politics too, but I'll be straight up and honest with everybody on here. I didn't really get too much of a chance to check you guys out and stuff. I think we were interacting on a Facebook and stuff, and so
yes, sir.
I don't know you guys. Just full disclosure, I don't know.
I was just telling this to Fleek. We are like shooting from the hip. I don't know who you are.
Yeah,
Fleek doesn't know who you are. I don't know what branch you are. I mean,
funny story here.
Are you guys
totally cool?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, well, I won't hold that against you, man. My bad. I was Army. Yeah, I was Army, and my buddy that I do my podcast with, he was a Marine, and so that's what we do. Is we're actually our podcast is obviously the Veterans Angle. Not trying to plug myself here or anything, but
that's you.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh shit! Yeah, I've heard of you guys. You guys are good, man.
Well, we're trying. We've been around for a little bit, but we just have not gained a whole lot of traction. So we're starting to change a few things up and kind of trying, because originally everything we talked about was politics, and it's like, dude, we got to stop talking about that crap, man. Nobody's, it's like nobody really cares. Yeah, well, because you guys are right. I mean, it really does drive away.
Yeah,
and it's, right. So, I was kind of like, if we are going to talk about problems, then we need to start talking about solutions, right? I mean, I'm tired of hearing everybody talk of, problem this, gloom day this, and it's like, man, if you're not willing to talk about the solution, then we need to just stop talking about it altogether.
Well, Ken, this podcast it's all about you, like where you came from, where you went to high school, why you joined the third best branch in the military, because Navy is first, Marine Corps is second, Army third, Coast Guard is like way back there.
Coast Guard's not even a military anymore, man. They're Department of Homeland Security.
They're Department of Homeland Security. And then like what you're doing now, like if you want to tell some stories, we'd love to hear them.
Hey, before we get started, though, I just want to point out the description says Clarence Carter's journey of resilience. So
that is not you.
Something screwy got jacked up, and I was like, me and Andrew were just sitting there talking, and I was like, damn, this Clarence dude didn't show up. And then Ken sends me a message, hey, I'm here. I'm like, yes. So I'm gonna have to see if I can change this after the fact. But for people are watching, this is not Clarence.
This is not Clarence. This is Ken.
This is Ken.
My bad. Yeah,
this is Ken.
Hey, we like to throw curveballs around here, man.
It happens to me all the time, believe me. So yeah, I mean, I'll kind of do a little quick bio real quick.
Yes. Sweet.
So basically I was born in Montana. We've got a huge family farm up in there. If anybody's ever watched the series Yellowstone, that's literally kind of what my family's had this farm since 1903.
Damn.
It's literally in the history books under dead Indian Coulee. My great grandfather literally won that land in a poker game, and so we had to go in there and kill a whole bunch of Indians. Well, and here's the crazy thing. Go ahead. This is actually part of the story. So our farm was my grandfather's house accidentally got built onto a burial ground.
Oh.
And to this day, my mother is half Crow Indian. My grandmother was 100% lived on the reservation up there in Billings, Montana. But anyway, we were farmers, you know, we were like real, like hardcore mountain men. I mean, my dad was the kind of guy, like my dad was a Vietnam guy. He was Navy, by the way. So won't hold that against him either. But
oh man, damn, this is gonna be a tough crowd.
My grandpa was a World War II guy. He was an Army guy, you know. But you know, back in the draft days, I mean, you know, they didn't really care too much about any of that stuff. But we were just simple folks, man. We were very self-reliant, very, you know, like I said, we were true entrepreneurs. Like we didn't. The closest town to us is about 45 miles away. Nice. So I mean, you know, we you know, even in the 80s, I mean, we still rode horses and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And so I didn't really ever care for horses. I was more in the motorcycle kind of stuff. My dad was a biker too. And so really I kind of grew up with almost that picture perfect childhood where we had basically no outside influence. You know, I mean, we grew up hunting and fishing, and my great grandpa was, you know, so we had like basically like 5 generations of people that were living on that farm, you know, in our own little, you know, it was basically like a little community type of thing. And it was just awesome. I mean, it was the best childhood that anybody could ever ask for. And then at about the age of 10, we, I guess my dad and my grandpa got into a little bit of a beef, and we decided to move to Washington State, and man, my life changed overnight. So we moved to Central Washington, the Columbia Valley, if anybody knows where that's at. You know, like Wenatchee, Moses Lake, Central Washington, the Apple Valley of the world, right? The apple where all of the red apples come from. And unfortunately, we got there right at the perfect time in the late 80s where there wasn't just a lot of apples, but there was also a lot of Mexicans coming up. And so somebody like myself who had never really had any type of exposure, I started, you know, I mean, we're talking, you know, like starting in like, you know, 6th, 7th grade, I started getting into a lot of trouble because I just didn't know how to deal with that culture and that, you know, that group of people. And 4 days before my 12th birthday, I broke my neck in a motorcycle accident.
Good.
Yeah. And so I was paralyzed from, you know, from about, I wasn't completely paralyzed, but it was basically from the waist up. I couldn't feel anything. I had to wear a full body neck brace and everything for about 18 months. And that actually saved me because there was a gang, a Mexican gang that was actually after me because I was friends with some older kids that they didn't like. And this was right during that time, like when like the Bloods and Crips were starting to rise up, and like the West Coast was like everybody, like you couldn't even flash somebody on the highway because they'd turn around and kill you. You know what I mean? And like all of the stuff like happening in Seattle and like LA and Portland and all that stuff. I mean, we called it the Ring of Fire growing up because it was literally pouring over the mountains into Central Washington, and it basically become kind of like the drug capital of Washington. I mean, it was just terrible. So growing up in Montana, where we had, you know, long story short, I mean, I got into a lot of trouble. I ended up getting jacked up by this gang, got into some pretty bad trouble, and I ended up getting expelled about 6 weeks into my 9th grade year. So I didn't do any high school. I didn't do a single year of high school. In Washington State at the time, you could get your GED at 14. So I went ahead after I recovered from my neck injury. I went ahead and went to the college there in Moses Lake and Big Bend Community College, and I took my GED test. And, you know, I mean, I was the only one there that I'm not exaggerating. I was the only one there that spoke English. And so they did it on a bell curve, and so I got like the highest score, and you know what I mean? And it was like, okay, you know, but anyway, I mean, that was kind of the beginning of my path towards joining the Army. Now, a lot of people, when they hear this story, they don't believe it, right? They're like, oh man, how'd you get into the Army? So let's go back to me being 14. I ran away from home. I got into some more trouble here again. I didn't do high school. So I ran away from home. Kind of like your last guest, I raced supercross dirt bikes for a little bit, got into some trouble, and then my dad found me. He actually found me in Portland, Oregon, and long story short, he kicked me out. I got a girl pregnant. When I turned 17, I was getting ready to basically get into some adult trouble. Everything up until that point had been juvenile, and a recruiter was walking. He was in the mall, and I was in Great Falls, Montana, and I was just walking around. Man, I was a punk ass kid. I had hair down to my middle of my back. I mean, I was on the road to jail. I'm telling you. And yeah, man, this recruiter came up and he was like, dude, he said, do you have any felonies? I said, no. He said, do you have a GED? I said, yep. And he said, well, the Army's taking GEDs right now. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't give a fuck what I do. I'm sorry.
No, you're allowed to say that.
Dude, no. Swearing is good on this show.
You say fuck all you want.
Okay,
dude, hey, Ken, I'm a chaplain and I fucking swear all the fucking time on this show.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I told this recruiter, I was like, look, because I knew that no other branch would take me. No other branch would do GEDs at that time. And, it's like sometimes the Marines will do it, sometimes they won't. But I had a mixture of relatives, like, again, my dad was Navy, my uncle was a Marine. So I had a very good mixture and a very good idea. I didn't care. To me, it wasn't a prestige thing. To me, it was almost like I had hit a point in my life, because it was like, look, man, I can either keep being a punk ass kid and going down this path. Like I said, I had a kid, right? I had this little girl that was just born, and I had no education, no nothing, man. I mean, I was working menial, like, farm jobs. Yeah. I was working at the John Deere dealership in my little farm town as their, like, lawnmower mechanic. You know what I mean? Like sharpening lawnmower blades and crap. And I mean, back then it was paying me, like, I think I started out at $4.25 an hour. I think it was minimum wage. And it was like, man, you can't make a living. You can't buy groceries and stuff like that. And when that recruiter came, I'm telling you, joining the military or any of them was really the last thing that I ever wanted to do. But I knew, talking to him that day, I mean, just the way that he presented himself, it was like, man, this is a good choice. If I have the opportunity, I might as well take it. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, as soon as I turned 17, man, he had me. We went in, he took me down to the MEP station in Butte, Montana, man. It was a drive. It was a ways away. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Montana, but it's a pretty big state. It was like, man. So we got down to MEPS, and I took the ASVAB, man. I scored a 117 GT. That's like I want to say like a 94 or 95%.
That's good.
And so, yeah, man, I never studied for it. So they were like, man, what do you want to do? I was like, let's shoot some people. Let's go infantry. Right. So that's what I did. My first 3 years was awesome. I mean, I went to Korea for my first duty assignment, and it was just awesome. I loved Korea. They sent me to Fort Stewart, and, I did some transferring stuff and ended up getting myself sent over to Savannah. And then, yeah, Hunter Army Airfield, right?
Hey, Ken, I lived there for 17 years, so I love Savannah, man.
Did you?
Oh, man, dude, my dad was a doctor. My mom was a lawyer. Savannah was fucking great, dude.
Yeah, so, we used to run with the Seabees down on at Tybee,
Tybee, yeah.
Yeah, we'd meet up with your guys' SEAL team and stuff and run down there and stuff, too. It's, it was cool. It was always cool. So I kind of bounced back and forth between there and Fort Bragg for a little bit. And then I got hurt. I got hurt at Fort Bragg. And so I got out of I did 3 years active duty before I was even legally old enough to drink. I was completely out, honorable discharge. Wow. Yeah, I mean, once I shattered my ankle at Fort Bragg, I mean, they wouldn't let me stay in the infantry. I had to reclass to a non-combat MOS. And it was like, man, screw, I was just like, man, screw it. So I went ahead and ETS'd, and I got out after my 3 years were done. I mean, because I spent my last 6 months in physical therapy anyway. So it was like, man, it serves no purpose for me to stay in if I'm going to be a cripple anyway. But anyway, I got out, and so that was kind of the end of that term of my life. Well, so I married a German girl. Me and her had been talking for
Wunderbar.
Yeah,
Wunderbar.
I didn't marry her in Germany. I met her in America, and she came back to the States, and we started dating and stuff. By this time, I was out of the Army. I was living in Salt Lake City, Utah, with my little brother, and I was just living life, man. I was just working as an electrician, just doing my thing, and trying not to kill anybody, really, and kind of having the veteran mentality. By this point, I was 21, so I was kind of able to live life pretty good, really, drink alcohol and stuff. And, in Utah, that's a big thing. So, but I married this German girl, and we never got a visa. We never got a marriage visa. I didn't even know anything about it. Hell, I tell the story. My mom is Canadian, and she never got a visa. She's been in America her entire life. Her and her mom were both kind of bounced back and forth between Montana and Canada. And it's like, man, I didn't even know. So anyway, she got deported. A German woman got deported. Yeah, we flew to Germany to visit her family. And when we came back, she was pregnant. But they took her and they interrogated her in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's where we landed, was in Milwaukee. They took her, they interrogated her for 8 hours. They turned her back around and they flew her back to Dusseldorf, Germany. They didn't even let me say goodbye. And so it's like, what the hell do I do? Because I'd already tried living in Germany during this time period. I tried living over there as a civilian, and I had tried getting a work visa, and they wouldn't approve my work visa because I didn't speak good enough German. So when we were coming back and trying to live back in the States. And
wait a second. That's a crazy concept. You have to speak their language to freaking live there? Wow.
Right. Yeah,
who would have thought that?
Well, that's kind of the funny thing about people who believe that anybody can just walk into a European country. Yeah, you can walk in and live there, but man, you're not going to work if you don't speak the language, I can tell you. But long story short, not a short story, a long story.
No, dude, you're perfect.
Yeah,
you're good.
You got it, man.
But she got deported. So my only option at that point in time, I spent the night in the airport. The next morning, I took a taxi over to a recruiter's office, and I was like, dude, man, sign me back up in the Army, get me to Germany. So I did. I re-enlisted in the Army. So I had been out for several years, and, they had to send me to this, like, retraining, like, it wasn't even a basic training, but they sent me to, like, Fort Jackson, South Carolina with all these, females. And I was like, all right, man, let's do this. But anyway, so I got to Germany, and here again, I was in a non-combat MOS, so the Army made me turn into a air defense artilleryman, a 14 Sierra, and sent me to an air defense artillery unit in Germany, and it was terrible. It was the worst. So about a month after this, after I went back into the Army, it was 9/11.
Oh, Jesus.
Right? And if everybody remembers how the military reacted after 9/11, right, we were locked down in Germany for like a year, pulling guard duty and doing all this stupid stuff, running around with Humvees and shit, trying to keep all the civilians. It was just crazy. But that's kind of how it all happened. And then Iraq came, and we knew that we were going to be one of the first ones to go to Iraq. We had our orders in 2002, and most people don't even think that we knew anybody was going to Iraq until 2003, right? But I mean, we knew. We were loading our ships in Belgium in 2002. So, we were a NATO asset unit, so we had to do, it was just a terrible, terrible time. I mean, basically out of the 4 years that I spent on active duty stationed in Germany, I was only actually in Germany for about a combined total of about 6 months. And it was just, most people that get sent to Germany, they love it. And I hated it. Not only because I knew that I was married to a Nazi turd, but I also just didn't like my unit. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so it's like, man, you know, I didn't like my unit. I didn't like the
Nazi turd. I like it.
Yeah.
That's going in the book, Fleek. That's going in the book.
Yeah, that part's going in the book for sure.
Yeah, that's going in the book.
So, you know, and then Iraq happened. And like I said, you know, me and my platoon, we went on advance party. So we technically got to Iraq. I mean, the war started on March 23rd. We were in Baghdad by March 28th. So, I mean, we were there technically before the Air Force even started bombing. And our job was simple, man. I mean, we set up a perimeter around Bayap with air defense artillery. Saddam Hussein didn't have any aircraft, right? I mean, I think he had like 2 jets, and neither one of them could make it off the ground, right? So, you know, it was a big muscle show. And then obviously the invasion happened, and, you know, 3rd Infantry Division and the Marines came up, and everybody, you know, everybody kind of, yeah, exactly. Well, the Marines kicked ass in that. I'll tell you straight up. You know, I say it all the time. If the Army would have had the same rules of engagement, that war probably would have been over in a week.
Dude, those 1-8 guys, man, they fucking fucked that town up. Like I look up to those guys. Like I came into 05. Like right after Phantom Fury, I was boots on ground in Fallujah in January 2005. Yeah. And those guys, I look up to those guys because those guys killed everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we had quite a few.
Sorry.
We had a lot of killers over there.
I was an infantry guy, man. I like to blow shit up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, exactly.
Sue me.
Yeah. Well, no, exactly. But, you know, that was my thing is I wish we could have blown everything up. You know what I mean? It's like, man, just get the war over and done with. But because, you know, 2003, you know, in the beginning, and not to get political, but, you know, in the beginning, most of us were in support of it. You know what I mean? Most of us thought that we were there for good reasons. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you 20 years later, right? So I went home in 04 and got divorced fairly quickly. I mean, I knew I was going to be getting divorced after that deployment. So, you know, and for anybody who thinks that divorce in America is difficult, man, try getting divorced in Germany. Nope. But anyway, when I came home from Iraq in 04, I got out again. So I went ahead and ETS'd again, and I did a European out because I wanted to, you know, I had 2 daughters with my Nazi turd wife by that point. So, yeah, so, you know, I wanted to stay there, and I wanted to try to see what I could do. So, you know, I got a DOD job and became a DOD civilian and hung out for a few years over there. And that's when I actually had fun in Germany, was as a DOD, you know, I mean, you know, talk about traveling and, you know, women and, you know, the beer. I mean, it was awesome then. I just didn't enjoy my time while I was stationed there in the Army. And a lot of it had to do with my chain of command and, you know, just the, you know, the typical stuff that, you know, I think it's always kind of funny because most people out there think that, like, when you're in the military, that everything is just kind of like copacetic, right? Like everybody just gets along and everybody's, you know, like, hey, sir, how you doing today? You know what I mean? Like, hey, sergeant, you know, everybody's like happy Gilmore and shit, right? And it's like most people don't realize that, man, if you get into a bad chain of command situation where you have people that either you don't like or they don't like you, man, it can be a hard few years to deal with. Yeah, you know what I mean? And obviously, I had the philosophy that every rank I made was one less group of assholes that I had to deal with. But
that's a good way.
You know, it was just, you know, Iraq really kind of, you know, a lot of people that I know, like it brought them closer to God, and it did this. To me, it kind of had the exact opposite effect. It really did.
Me too.
And so I knew coming back, I knew that me and my ex-wife we just weren't gonna mix. And anyway, I spent a few more years over there. And then in 2007, I came back. By that point, I was already kind of back together with my current wife that I've been married to now for 18 years. So, you know, the struggles of, you know, the PTSD and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? It was pretty real in the beginning. I mean, I spent many years drinking myself to sleep every night. You know, and I mean, there was some pretty dark times, you know, I'm sure you guys know the stories. I mean, you probably have many of them yourselves. And it's like, you know, the average person out there does not understand this. And, you
True.
guys know this, right? Every time you go to the VA and you got to do your yearly psych eval and all this other crap, it's like, well, it's like, look, man, like it's bullshit. It's So I guess what I'm kind of getting at is I started having kind of this resentment pretty soon after coming back to the States, because I kind of started seeing just on a political level how crazy things had kind of gotten. Keep in mind, I'd spent 7 years in Germany. So coming back over here, it was kind of a shell shock to me. I mean, I was kind of surprised at a lot of different, the way that things were going. And it's like, man, so I just wanted to do something to try to make a difference, I guess. And so that really is kind of what led me into the whole podcasting thing and the whole, I started my own business and became a construction guy, started doing things like building houses for homes for heroes and stuff like that.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
So I built 2 houses, with my own money that, one veteran was a Navy guy, wounded veteran in Cincinnati, Ohio. Great project. But, so it really kind of compelled me to start doing this kind of stuff and really trying to, I guess, really, it kind of made me think outside the box and start wanting to live away from the societal push that we kind of see today with, everything going on. So that's kind of the story. Yeah. As far as business, I guess I would consider myself to be a successful business guy. I've had my construction company now for about 11 years. I've actually recently had a pretty serious health problem. I just spent about 4 months in the VA hospital here in Oklahoma City. And so I've got some decision making to do with whether I want to continue on with construction or try to kind of, maneuver myself into a little bit easier work. Right?
Damn. Hey, I was just in Oklahoma in November for the VFW Southern Conference. We were at some casino in Oklahoma. I can't remember, Two Rivers or River
cool.
something. I don't know. Oklahoma was beautiful, man. Sorry, segue, but Oklahoma's great.
Yeah, we just moved here a couple years ago, and man, I'm telling you, this is my favorite place that I've ever lived. We came here from Atlanta. In the last 20 years since I've been back.
Oh, Atlanta.
Right. We've lived in 9 different states since I've come back to America in 2007. So, I mean, I go where I can make the most money, but my biggest thing is, especially being a West Coast guy or a Pacific Northwest Coast guy, I've never really had the urge to ever go back home. You know what I mean? That's always kind of been my thing. Is I guess I'm kind of a nomadic guy where I prefer to kind of be every couple of years, just kind of move around. That's one of the things I love the most about the Army was the fact that, you really don't hang on to any major attachments. You kind of let go and you move on. And I got along with that very well, where a lot of other guys had a really hard time, like, especially like when one of their buddies would PCS or something, and they'd be stuck there for a couple of months without a buddy, and it's like, dude, snap out of it, man. You got, it's like, come on, but, I tell everybody, I am the luckiest man on this earth, man. I'm telling you, I am the most blessed, fortunate man on this planet. Especially with the recent things that have happened. I mean, just to kind of fill you guys in. So what I have stage 2 MS, and I've had that for quite a while.
Oh man.
But about 6 months ago, I don't know what was going on, but I'm about 6'2" and about 225 pounds on average. My MS has kind of made it hard for me to, like, I go to the gym, but it's hard for me to do like a full, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And about 6 months ago, I started having these chest problems, and it felt like I had really bad indigestion or something. But anyway, I had never used the VA up into that point. I had always just paid for my own, medical stuff. And, but I just had a feeling. I was like, man, I need to go to the emergency room to the VA. And sure enough, I got there, and they were like, dude, you just had your pancreas and your kidneys just failed.
What?
So, yeah. So check it out. So what happened was about a year ago, I had a private doctor. I had low testosterone, which is a very common thing for veterans, right? Veterans are the highest risk factor for low testosterone. Yep. So my private doctor put me onto testosterone replacement therapy. Well, I didn't know that stuff shuts your pancreas down. So even though I was seeing good muscle gains and I was doing everything else, I didn't realize that I was actually turning myself into a type 2 diabetic. A skinny diabetic at that. Yeah. and so it's like, but this is, this is just one of those learning processes I get. It doesn't happen to everybody. It's a very rare thing. And nobody could prove that that's what caused it with me. But it's really kind of opened my eyes to a couple of different things. And it's kind of brought a new appreciation, because for many, many years, I really felt almost, I wouldn't say ashamed, but I would almost say, like, I feel like it was a waste of time. I feel like my time, your guys' time may have been different to you, but to me, I feel like my time in 2003 was a complete waste of time, life, blood, sweat, and tears. And it just seems like there's still too many political games being played with all of it. Does that make any sense? You know what I mean? It's like, it's like how people carried on about Vietnam for, all those years. And it's like, man, just let it go.
Still do.
Yeah. It's like, man, and so, I mean, I guess to me, in a way, I've actually almost tried to even block out my entire time in the Army, because to me, it was just a stepping stone to bigger and better things anyway.
I've got I got a lot of Marines that are just like that. I've got 3 Marines that live in Tennessee that I haven't talked to in 20 years because they want to forget everything that went on in 05, 06, 07. Ramadi was tough. 22nd MEU was tough. Fallujah was tough. And I've tried to reach out to them, but they just don't want anything to do with me. I'm like, okay, well, hey, that's cool, man.
Yeah. I've never.
It sucks. It sucks, but, it's okay.
I have never turned down talking to an old friend, or even one of my old soldiers. I've had, old soldiers that have reached out, like, it's kind of funny. You know how it goes. Like, once you get promoted to like corporal, you lose that lower group of friends. Once you get promoted to sergeant, you lose that, and it's like, man, it's like, I never wanted to unfriend anybody. But it's like, man, I always had a different mindset. To me, the Army was much more about, it was literally a building block. I never had the intention of doing more than a few years. I never had the intention of, becoming a lifer. I knew that I just wanted to use it to kind of elevate my own status. I tell people this. I was not a patriot when I joined. I didn't care about freedom. I joined for very, very selfish reasons. Most of it had to do with the fact that I was a 17-year-old punk kid that was either getting ready to go to jail as an adult, or I could turn my life around and do something. And thank God that they're just, maybe the stars were aligned right. I don't know. But everything I have in my life is owed to my time in the Army. So I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget the experience. I just don't want to make it like the center stone of my existence. You know what I mean?
No, you're totally right. Because I've got some guys that their time in the Marine Corps was the best, and they always go back to it. I'm like, dude, it's been 18 years, man. Just, we've got a new mission now, taking care of our veterans. Like, Fleek's in the VFW. Ken, are you in the VFW? Are you in the American Legion?
I used to be a member. I haven't joined here since I moved to Oklahoma. I haven't joined really anything. I haven't even switched my Masonic lodge yet. So I'm actually.
Samoa B, brother.
Oh Samoa B, bro. But I haven't even done that. So, and that's literally, so that's literally, probably my number one priority for joining any organization here. But
Fleek, stop shaking your head. You want to join this cult, okay? Because everybody knows that the Freemasons, we're trying to take over the world.
Well,
Yeah, I don't think I could kill a goat though.
Oh God, seriously, man, I swear these people that read about Freemasonry on Google is like killing me. Oh my God.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I don't know, man. You've never been to a Kentucky lodge, have you? No, I'm
No,
joking.
I'm joking. No, I haven't. No, I have not.
Yeah, but I mean, I've even got issues with that. I mean, I'll tell you straight up. I mean, I've actually made episodes on one of my old podcasts that I had several years ago. I titled it "My War with Freemasonry." Right? I mean, at that time I was still in Atlanta, and I mean, there was just a lot of things that got messed up here again. COVID and everything that just happened kind of all at once. Because that's really around the same time that I started getting sick, that I started having problems in business and all that other kind of stuff. And eventually, this little break that I've had to take is probably another time in my life, kind of like when I broke my neck, where it's probably going to save me in the long run. It's just going to be a long process to recover. But, I tell people, they ask me all the time, how did you join the Army? Well, back then they didn't have, you couldn't pull up people's medical records on a computer.
Yep.
All you had to do was lie. And that's what I did. I lied my ass off. You know what I mean? I told the man, when the doctor checked me out, I was like, I've never broken any bones. What are you talking about?
Oh,
I know you can't necessarily do that as easily these days.
No, not at all. They found my broken ankle from like when I was like 8 in Exeter, New Hampshire. I was like, did you break your ankle? I was like, yes.
Oh, wow.
And hey, I scored a 54 on my ASVAB. I had a GT of 105. I was like you, Ken. All I wanted to do was go infantry. I didn't care. I just wanted to go, and I was a machine gunner. And I lost some friends, a lot actually. And yeah, but you know what? There were good times, there were bad times. And Ken, I totally agree with your story. You've seen the good times, you've seen the bad times.
Yep.
And you've come out better for it.
I mean, I can say this. I mean, even with things like my faith being questioned and stuff like that, I think if anything else that I can say to anybody out there, gratitude is what it is all about. Gratitude. If those experiences taught us nothing else, it taught us how to be thankful for what we have. And
brother, wow, dude, that's going in the book too, Flake. That's a good one right there.
All right, I just marked it.
Okay.
But I think that's what a lot, especially when we're talking about the veterans and stuff like that. I mean, I think that's what a lot of the problem is they just never were kind of taught how to be grateful. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, I mean, well, you guys know that there's always going to be the whiners and the complainers and stuff like that. We see it in the business world too, right? We see in
the VFW.
Yeah, we see it exactly, right? We see it in the Masons, right? We see the guys.
We see it. Oh yeah, we definitely see it in the Masons.
You know about the rhinos, right? The Republicans in name only, right? Well, I've named the Masons minnows, Masons in name only. This has been my catchphrase, because the same thing. You've got those guys that are lifelong Masons, and they've never even been to one single parade or one different lodge or anything like that. And it's like, man, you're really not much of a traveling man.
Oh, dude, you just characterized my entire lodge, because those guys, they don't go anywhere else. They just stay in that lodge. I haven't even paid my dues. Like, I'm MPD from Blue Lodge. I'm MPD for Scottish Rite, York Rite, Shriner. Like, I've got too much stuff going on. I don't have time right now to do it. Like, VFW is taking a big chunk of my time, and hopefully soon that will be coming down to a funnel size as well.
That ain't gonna happen.
Well, and here again,
you bite your tongue, Commander. You bite your tongue, sir.
I mean, the problem with it is that the fraternal participation across the board, it doesn't matter which type of fraternal organization you're talking about. American Legion is down, VFW is down. I mean, it's hemorrhaging people. Well, it's the same thing with church participation, right? I mean, it's hemorrhaging numbers.
Dude, we just had a 2-day retreat. I'm a junior warden in my church. they're talking about stewardship, and I'm like, my VFW brain is like, wait a minute, stewardship, recruiting, retainment. Oh my God, you guys need new members too. And
You're a junior warden in your church, man. Is your church a Masonic lodge?
no. It's I'm Episcopalian, and we got a senior warden, we got a junior warden, just like the Freemasons.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's very cool because a lot of the bishops in England, a lot of them were Freemasons too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they,
I think it's kind of that same way with the Mormons too, isn't it? Don't they have kind of that same structure? Yeah,
they do. Yeah, it's called the it's the church hierarchy, and the vestry. That's what we are. We are the lay people. We're not priests. We're not. I mean, I'm a minister, but I'm not an Episcopal priest. And so we basically we do all the stuff in the church, and then we meet with the priests and we tell them, hey, we need this and this and this, and we need to vote on it. And so we're basically the eyes and the ears of the everyday life of the church, because the priests, they're too busy, tending to their flock, which is a great thing, but they have 884 people to tend to. They've got to have eyes around. Like, dude, even SMEAC, a 5-paragraph order was even brought up today in church, which I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's a frago.
Wow.
Why are you guys talking about a frago? And in civilian terms, it's called stop. For us, it's called frago or SMEAC for the Marines, or shit. What does the Navy have? Do they have an acronym for that? Situation, mission, execution, admin, logistics, coordination, and control.
I wouldn't know what the Navy's is.
Yeah, don't ask me that shit. That was 40 years ago, bro.
I know that was, yeah.
Well, no, but that's very interesting. I mean, that's actually a very interesting topic right there. So, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know that the Episcopalians had that type of structure.
Yeah, we do. We're and I am in charge of the grounds, like HVAC, the doors, the lights, the security. I mean, me and another junior warden. There's 2 junior wardens, one senior warden, and so the 2 junior wardens. He's been a warden for 2 years, so it's a 3-year term. So in 3 years, I will be done my vestryship. And then
do you
good.
move up the priesthood from there?
I'm actually, it's funny. I'm actually being discerned. I'm not going to be a priest. God told me, and I did lose my faith when I was in the service. I did for 4 years. My dad committed suicide. I lost my son. I divorced my wife. I lost 26 Marines in 2 deployments, plus a lot to suicide. So in 12 years, I lost a lot of people. Like, it's just me and my mom now. I lost my brother to my brother, Washington. He lived in Seattle. He went to UW. He rode for them. And it just, and I found my faith again. And I was always going to church as a kid, and then I lost it, and then I got it back. And now I'm trying. God wants me to be a deacon, so I got 1 foot in the church, but I got 1 foot in the real world, because I'm a doer like you, Ken, and you, Fleek. I get in the dirt and get dirty. Okay.
Yeah.
Some priests do, not all of them. Some priests, they get in the dirt, but there's a lot of priests out there that's why they had the vestry. The vestry does all the dirt. They do the dirt stuff. And they just say, oh, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's very fascinating.
I might get in a lot of trouble for just saying that, but I don't think they watch this podcast. Thank God.
I mean,
I'd be excommunicated in a second.
Well, I really never was uber religious. I really wasn't. Right. I grew up in kind of a combination. I actually grew up really in my younger days between Mormonism and Lutheranism was kind of the 2 main influences for me. But I mean, I knew pretty young that I didn't want to follow any of it. And I've studied theology. I've got a degree in sociology. So
nice.
And I didn't really tell a whole. When I came back to the States, I went back into the National Guard in Texas, and I did OCS there and became a lieutenant and everything. And so
What?
Well, yeah, it was the worst mistake of my life. It was terrible. No, don't do that, man. I resigned my commission and got out as a staff sergeant. Yeah, don't salute me. Yeah,
there you go, sir.
Why'd you resign?
I resigned my commission. Yeah, I got the hell out of there. I got into a little bit of trouble. I actually got a bad OER, a bad officer review, and got into a little bit of trouble. And my chain of command tried to dump me. This is what I'm talking about when I say that even in the National Guard, if you get a bad chain of command, it can be a recipe for several years of straight misery. Yeah. And basically the state of Texas refused to release me back to active duty. So yeah, I was like, I'm resigning my commission. Don't ever talk to me again. So I am, even though it was an honorable release, it's still, I'm never eligible for any service ever again. So I made a conscious decision to do that. It was purely, so I technically had 3 different terms, and it really, man, I don't even know how to explain it. I wouldn't say that I lost my faith. I would just say that it opened my eyes to many other experiences that made me question everything I had already ever been taught.
And that's normal. I mean, it's natural to question. I question all the time. I even asked that to my priests. I was like, do you guys question? And they're like, all the time. All 8 priests, they even question themselves,
right?
Which makes them way more human than what I thought they were. Because I adulated priests. I thought they were like officers. I thought they put their pants on differently than us. I really did. And you know what? And you know what? They're all human, and it took me about 8 months to actually call my lieutenant colonel, who I'm still friends with, by his first name because it's so ingrained in your head. He's like, damn it, Andrew, my name is Matt. Okay, it's not sir, it's not it's not your highness or whatever. It's Matt. And it took me a long time to get over that. And once I started doing that, my eyes, were a little bit more open than when I was in the service, because I was a robot. I mean, Fleek, we were all robots.
Oh yeah.
Like we had.
And really, it was so different for me than it was for a lot of guys that I knew. And here again, I think that so many guys just focus so much on that period, that block in their life. And it's like, man, I mean, I was talking to a young dude just the other day on my podcast. He's an active duty Marine right now. And he's down there at, what is that, 28 Palms, I want to say?
29 Palms.
29 Palms, yeah.
California, it's like Palm Springs.
There's palm trees. Yeah. I can't remember them all.
There's 2 of them. There's only 2 palm trees on 29 Palms. There's only 2.
I know. But, this great guy, man, he just got off recruiter duty. And, everybody knows that is crappy. And, I'm sitting there, I'm kind of trying to tell him, like, man, dude, you need to just get out. And he's like, oh, no, I've been there for 13 years. And it's like, dude, man, once you get out, you're not going to be able to really survive, because that's all you know, man. And that's all you're ever going to do. And, he has it in his head that he's never going to have any other type of camaraderie or any better camaraderie than what he has in the Corps. And it's like, buddy, man, that as a business owner, I have a better camaraderie with my employees than I ever had with my fellow soldiers, and I know the Marines are tight. I know, but I don't think that there's really that big of a difference between friendships in the branches. Do you?
Ken, you bring up a really good point, because, yes, we are tight. And I do talk to a bunch of my, maybe like 5 really good friends, but everybody else, once they get out, they go their own ways. Sometimes we talk. When I was drinking, I would call all of them, but I haven't had a drink in 6 years, so I don't have a need to call these guys. If they want to get a hold of me, they can. I had one guy from Michigan. He asked me, he's like, hey, I need, what about this PACT Act thing? I was like, oh, well, we burn shit like all the time over there. You definitely, here's the number. You need to call them. See if you can get your 100% because he wants 100%. I've got it. Ken, are you getting disability?
I'm at 50 right now. I am currently in the process. I've got some pretty high-speed people working on it right now to get bumped up.
That's good.
Well, especially since all this stuff is recent, like this pancreatitis and kidneys and all that. I mean, trust me, I'm going to get bumped up to 100% quick. So,
dude, hey, I don't know what the cost of living is in Oklahoma, but if it's anything like Tennessee, which is in the Southern Conference in the VFW, so you should get to your nearest post and join them because they need younger leaders like yourself to take over.
I'll go over. Yeah, absolutely. I'll check them out for sure. I had a lot of fun. I think I was with the VFW in Germany. I think that's who I was with. When I came home from Iraq, I think I had a buddy at
Department of Europe, man. I know those guys. They are fun fuckers, man. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, here again, I mean, there's so many different organizations that I try to belong to. I mean, it's just like, man, because just like you, it's like, Blue Lodge, Shriners, York Rite. I haven't paid my York Rite dues in probably 15 years.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, I've got no time to do all these different things. I can't even do like Demolay with my son anymore.
Oh my, Demolay. Oh, mama. Nice.
Yeah, we've got here. Nice. Yeah, we've got that here. And
what the hell is that?
Demolay is for like. Oh, go ahead, Ken. Go ahead.
Well, it's a young youth men's club. It just teaches them kind of. It's really more of a social school than anything. It's really kind of interaction and stuff like that. It's here again. It's not political. It's not religious. It's really just trying to teach kids how to be good community leaders. Mm-hmm. And so we do things like, like clean up parks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We do events like that, but I don't even have the time. My son literally is, we can't do it this year because I don't have time and I'm not healthy enough right now to walk to go do that kind of stuff with him. But that stuff means a lot to me, especially when it's dealing with veterans. You know what I mean? And, my lodge in Alabama, we started a charity about, probably about 2010, I want to say 2009, 2010. It's called Hooked on Decatur, right? Hooked on Decatur Bass Fishing Tournament. We started that. I don't know if you know what. I don't know if you know what the Mark Twain Award is, but
I do.
Yeah, my lodge won that 2 years in a row.
No way.
And the reason is because we created that bass fishing tournament for Wounded Warrior Project. We're doing $60,000 a year for those guys. You know what I mean? And that's just off that one charity. So this stuff means a lot to me. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, I mean, I like what you guys are doing, man. We need to collaborate and stay in touch and stuff
for sure.
Most definitely.
So, and here again, the more you guys get to know me, there's probably a lot of things you guys are going to be like, man, this dude's off his rocker. But
no, Ken, I've known a lot of kids, a lot of guys that are off the rocker, and you make sense. I'm like, there's some people that I talk to. I'm like, where did you research that?
Yeah. You're like a ball of energy there, Ken. Are you always this wound up?
Well, I try to be. It's kind of funny because people think I'm a very angry guy, and I'm not really that angry. I got a lot to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm the perfect podcaster.
Doesn't he remind you of someone like 5 years ago? Ball of energy, angry all the time. Yeah. Ken, you remind me of me when I was first starting out with the Reverend Warriors and the VFW and American Legion and AMVETS and DAV and doing seriously, when I became a Mason, dude, I did everything. I did Blue Lodge, Scottish Rite, and York Rite in a year and a half.
Yep.
I got burned out. I left for 2 years, came back in the fold, and now my dues are like $162 just for Blue Lodge. And I don't even know if
Tennessee? Holy cow.
They've raised them. When I started, they were $92. Now they're $160. Like I can't afford that right now.
Yeah.
Not now.
Yeah. Wow.
Man, that's pretty steep. But I mean, that there again, the reason they're doing that is because that lodge is hemorrhaging numbers, right? If they had active members And that's what I mean. I mean, participation rates, even in churches, religious participation is down. It's crazy. Nobody wants to actually get out and socialize anymore because everybody's too used to watching things on their smartphone.
This
Exactly.
right here. This is the bane.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my phone. I do. But you know what? If I can be without this thing, I'm a happy man. I didn't touch this thing for 3 days when I was in Cape Cod, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I took
exactly.
pictures, and that's it. I didn't have any conversations. I didn't do any of that. It just saved, it saved my mind. And
Yeah.
This drains you all the time. But you know what? Yeah. Go ahead.
No, and I'll tell you, I mean, it's not to brag, but I think that it is actually dumbing people. And I know this is actually a statistical fact. We are actually losing our intelligence levels, right? Our IQs are literally lowering on a pretty consistent trend because we are frying ourselves. I mean, there's so many different elements to this, but I'll tell you one thing that I think my faith, at least, has gained. I have a belief, and this is just my personal belief. I have a belief that we have a moral obligation to be happy.
Yes.
And so even though I have an angry, stern demeanor sometimes, that's just my nature. That's just my personality. But inside my brain, it all goes back to that gratitude where we do have. I can't imagine not being happy. I can't imagine hating life like that, and I think this is here again, it's not to harping on politics or religion or anything, but to me, we have a responsibility to get this message out there. And sometimes that even means to tell people to get their heads out of their ass. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For real. And
Fleek does that on a daily basis.
Well, good. That's what needs to be done.
Especially to me sometimes, because I say some pretty messed up stuff. He's like, Andrew, what the fuck you talking? I'm like, oh, okay. He's like my spot check.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, Andrew, if you you sound crazy. You need to take it down a notch. I'm like, okay, no problem.
Well, that's how it is. That's how it is with me and my dude over on our podcast too, man. He thinks I'm losing my mind, and I probably am. But it's like, dude, go back to California or something, man, because you're not on my same team here. But as podcasters, we really do have a responsibility. There's so many guys out there that are just. I don't want to be one of those kind of guys that's just there talking to talk. You know what I mean? I actually want to. I want to try to attract people to a message, and it's like, man, this is why I actually get along with Freemasonry so well, is because I don't like to bring religion or politics into it. I like to bring common sense into it. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, so many of these people nowadays, you can't talk to anybody without them throwing, basically hot oil in your face,
Right.
and it's like, oh my goodness, man. I mean, there used to be a time where people like us were the voice of reason,
back in the day.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's so many things we could talk about, but I'll tell you that's kind of my story. That's it in a nutshell, man. I've been married 3 times. My third marriage is my current marriage. I've been married to her for 18 years. We've been together for almost 20. Nice. And thank God she saved me from the Nazi turd, because I'm telling you, I would not have been able to. I would not.
I love that term, man.
I do too. Nazi turd. Dude, we should name this the Nazi turd episode.
Nazi
I'll
turd.
tell you, the arguments that ensued between her and I, first of all, obviously there's a cultural difference. She was an atheist, which I don't know if you guys have ever dated an atheist, but man, it's hard.
No.
Even me, because I don't consider myself to be Christian. I actually consider myself to be a deist, right? Which I still believe in a singular God. But it's more of like a George Washington type of faith, if you guys know what I'm talking about.
No, I get I get it.
But me and her bumped, and typically I don't really care, but man, me and her, it was like, it was just inevitable, man. It was like the battle of heaven and hell with me and her, man. It was just every day. But my wife now, I'm telling you guys, I'm not an angry person. I'm just a very direct person. But man, my wife that I have she's my savior. She's the one that took me from the depths of hell and nursed me back to life and stuck with me when most other people would never have. And, you know, to me, this is kind of where I guess I am different than, you know, I'm a Gen Xer. I think you guys might be a little older.
No, I'm a Gen, dude, 77.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 79. So yeah, we're very close. Yeah, exactly.
Fleek, what are you? You're like a baby boomer, right?
I just missed baby boomer. I was born in '66.
Oh yeah, so you're a Gen Xer.
Yeah, you're on the cusp.
Right
of
on
the
the cusp. Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, it's very interesting because obviously a lot of people in our generation just don't have the drive. They don't have the motivation. You know, we live in a participation trophy society.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, man, sooner or later, it's going to take people getting their feelings hurt for anything to get better. And it's like, man, you know, I mean, I see so many problems that are happening now, and it's frustrating. You know what I mean? So
there's spiritual warfare. There's philosophical warfare. There's all kinds of warfare going on in this country. And you know what? It's funny, man. In the 80s, it was fucking awesome. Like, we didn't have any of these problems. Like, yeah, we had problems, but
we had Ozzy Osbourne. That was the extent of our problem in the 80s.
Dude, we didn't have fucking Karens in the 80s, okay? There were no Karens in the 80s. I got my ass beat in the 80s, okay? And I was okay with it. My dad was like, you lost. You know what? You'll win the next day. I'm like, all right, good to go.
Yeah. Well, that's just it, right? We've lost our masculinity, right? And I talk about about 90% of my podcast revolves around the masculinity topics, right? About the manosphere and the MGTOW guys and all that kind of stuff, right? So, well, yeah, 'cause I make fun of a lot of those guys. I really do, but
what, the Metro guys?
Huh?
With the Metro guys?
Well, yeah. Do you know what MGTOW is?
And
you know what MGTOW is, right? MGTOW?
I have no idea.
Yuppie? Would it be a yuppie?
Yeah, it's men going their own way. I make fun of them, man. I get on there. They've got their own TV channel, and I post my videos on there making fun of them. But anyway.
Okay. No, I get it now. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, the whole manosphere, you know, like all those guys, you know, like they're training you how to become a young alpha and all this. It's like, man, you guys need to shut up. You know what I mean? None of you. Yeah, I mean, literally. But we have lost our real masculinity, right, as a society. And this is not anybody's fault. This is just the natural order of things. It's just, you know, human evolution. It's what we do.
It's generational. Like,
right? I mean, what's that? Yeah, exactly. What's that old saying that, you know, strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. It's a continuous revolution. Yeah, you know, and this is how, like, you know, the Roman Empire fell, right? I mean, it's because when men start to get weak and they start not being able to defend their own countries or their own families, right? They can't keep their families together, and that's kind of what we're seeing is, you know, the breakup of the nuclear family. I'm sorry.
I really like how you brought Rome into this conversation, because as a classics major, I totally agree with you on that, about how Roman civilization, I mean, it was at the apex, and then they go through a general like every single year for like the last 200 years. They couldn't even get any good leadership.
Well, and that's the problem, is everybody lost their motive. They were so spoiled and they were so much further ahead of everybody else. They didn't even think that they needed to defend their own borders. And so when the Ottoman Empire rolled up and started, you know, first they took over Constantinople and all, you know, I mean, the history is it's like, man, we're seeing the exact same thing play out, really. And it all comes back to that biblical masculinity is what I would call it, you know, and I don't see it in our military. I don't see it in our business.
Not anymore.
I don't see it, you know, to me, I don't see it in religion. Our education system is completely, you know, it's just terrible. And this is kind of where I'm at, man. I'm one of those crazy guys. I'm one of those crazy prepper guys.
Dude, no. You're just, dude, you're an evangelist. You're speaking truth right now, okay?
I mean, I'm trying, man.
Dude, do you know that St. John was an angry, loudmouth that people hated. Okay. And you know what? I love St. John because he was overzealous. He was angry. People didn't really like him that much. They didn't really understand him. But you know what?
Paul Revere was like that too.
And Paul,
yeah, people thought he was the worst asshole on this planet. They thought he was a rich, snobby asshole, and it's funny because But I'm just saying, it's crazy. I'm just not afraid to tell the truth. That's all.
No, you're not.
People take that as anger, but it's like, no, man. I'm just not afraid to tell you how it is. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that, but it's like. So many people just go along to get along, and it's like, man, if you're not willing to stand up for what you believe in, then you're really not doing anything. You know what I mean?
You're not doing justice to anyone if you don't do that. I get you. Nope,
and this is where podcasts are so important, because this is the voice that can reach. It's not like 1,000 years ago where we had to send out little leaflets and shit, right? The Knight Templars sending out their little banknotes back then, right? So it's
smoke
not
signals.
Yeah,
smoke
exactly.
Signals.
Everything is at the touch of a button right now. Everything is electronic and digital. There is no reason why people's voices, at least in the free world, right? There is no reason why people's voices shouldn't be able to get heard and collaborated and come together and make good stuff happen. And that's really kind of what I'm trying to do, man. I'm not trying to recruit anybody, obviously, but I want to find like-minded people. You know what I mean?
No, dude, you got two like-minded people like on the other end of this StreamYard, so that's good.
I want you guys to come on to my podcast too. So
let's do it, man.
We can come on together. You can do him first. You can do me first. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, however you want to do it.
Sorry. Oh my gosh, I said it again.
Don't make me make a reading joke.
Another sexual innuendo from far over here. Dude, Ken, I was talking about masturbation the last fucking time.
You can do him first.
In a porta shitter.
Hey,
in 127 degree weather.
Yeah, I love this. This is awesome. And here again, we're working on some pretty big things. We've been at this for a minute, but we're having a hard time kind of catching, traction with this. But we've got
stay at it, man.
Yeah, and how long have you guys been at this?
Almost 3 years.
July 4th would be 3 years.
Awesome. Yeah, I might need to get some pointers from you guys offline.
Hey,
but
Ken, you just got you got another follower. I just followed your podcast, and I just added you as a friend on Facebook. So
I
appreciate that, man. Thank you.
If you need anything, when's your next episode, Aaron?
We actually record. We just changed. Normally, we record on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central, but we just changed it to 6 p.m. Central on Friday nights.
Okay.
What we have, so it's me and my buddy that are the primary hosts, just like you guys. But we also have a panel of up to 3 other guests that come on. One is a major from the Army that she was in the Vet Corps. One is a Special Forces guy that just retired 24 years out of the 1st Special Forces Group.
Nice.
And then the other one that we have is a retired State Department guy. He was a Marine, a really, really good guy. But so that's what we're kind of trying to do, is kind of trying to build a list of like-minded podcasters. And because really the more collaboration we can do and the more word we can kind of put, I don't know what your guys' numbers are, but obviously us, I mean, we're not at the top of the list right now, obviously.
We were we just were doing it for fun and to listen to stories. And now we're listening. You're being listened to in 518 cities and 53 countries now?
Look. Wow. 554 cities.
Holy shit.
Wow.
It keeps growing.
Wow.
So our second biggest city, our first city is Murfreesboro, which is where both me and Andrew live. And our second one is actually Frankfurt, Germany. Oh. That's freaking weird.
Really?
There's a lot of Americans there. Yeah. A lot of Americans there.
Wait, Frankfurt am Main Heiss. What the hell is that?
Oh, that's southern Germany. Frankfurt am
Heiss, yeah.
Heiss.
Yeah,
I've heard of Heiss.
That's where the college is at. That's where the big university in Germany's at. Frankfurt am whatever the southern one is. Frankfurt am Rhein is the big city. That's like Frankfurt, Wiesbaden, Mainz. That's where I was stationed. I was at McCauley Barracks in Mainz. Okay. And so Frankfurt, that's Frankfurt am Rhein. The other one is some college town.
Well, hey, like I would get my friends that I served with, and we would record their stories. Actually, if you listen to Jesse Drehas's episode, that's a good one. That guy, he is in Iowa right now. He was a Marine wrestling team. Then he went, he's a cop, and now he's a TAC-P with the Air National Guard.
Oh, wow.
And he's overseas right now. Like, they're doing something crazy. Like Jesse is like, he's a manimal. That, when you talk about masculinity, Jesse fucking Drehas, that guy is a fucking animal.
My favorite episodes are August 7th. Every year we do on National Purple Heart Day. We'll have a panel of Purple Heart recipients, and we'll just do a round robin on their stories. And it is, I don't think we've done it for a couple years now, and I don't think there's been a time nobody has shed a tear. You know what I'm saying? We end up crying and like, oh my God. Crazy stories that these people go through, man.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. You guys are doing some phenomenal work, and I truly appreciate coming on.
Hey, Ken, thanks for texting him, because our guy didn't want to show up.
Well, and sorry about I have no idea how to even use Facebook. So when I'm writing these kinds of, it's like, man, but I truly do appreciate this. And, anytime you guys want to come on, like I said, we're shooting on.
Hey, just let us know. We'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there. Send us a StreamYard or
I do Zoom.
Zoom.
I do Zoom.
Zoom. Okay. Yeah, I got a Zoom thing on mine too.
And also this this channel started making some money, and it kind of grossed me out, because my goal was not to make money off of people's stories. You know what I'm saying? So we actually turned this into a nonprofit. So we send veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families to sporting events. I actually bought season tickets through the Detroit Lions.
Awesome.
And every Sunday we send some veteran and first responder or Gold Star family to an event. And it's not like just any events like NFL, NHL, like big events. Our goal is to send somebody to Super Bowl one year.
Yeah.
Obviously it's going to take a lot of work, but like $10,000 a ticket, but we're going to do it.
Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, if you guys don't mind, I will gladly give a shout out to y'all.
Hell yeah,
for sure.
If you don't mind me plugging myself here again,
I'm gonna plug you.
No, plug it away, man. Plug away. That's what we're here for.
So here again, veteransangle.com. We're on, and here's another thing. I'm still learning a lot of this stuff right now. We're just really on Rumble. I've got a Patreon and stuff, but if people can just go to the website and then subscribe and share on the Rumble videos, that would be best.
Hey, Fleek, do we got Rumble? Have we done that yet?
I've got YouTube too, but we're trying to stay away from YouTube just because YouTube is so. Do you guys actually have a video podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, do you? So this is actually being.
You're live right now. We're live right now on YouTube.
You're live.
Hi, everybody.
You're on YouTube. You're on Facebook.
Yeah. But no, that's awesome. Anytime you guys need anything at all, just let me know for sure. So
and the same goes for us as well.
All right, man.
Anything you need.
So before we let you go, there's a couple things though. We want a saved round from you, but before we get your insight, how are you taking care of your MS? Well, what's the?
You want to know my remedy?
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I moved to Oklahoma was because they have medical marijuana here. I am a firm believer. I'm one of these crazy anti-vaxxer. I wasn't even allowed to go to my own father's funeral because I refused to get the jab. So that's how serious I take this stuff. The VA has me on Lyrica, which is a nerve blocker, which helps with. So my particular symptoms are in my legs and in my chest and back. And I also have a pretty big problem with memory retention and stuff like that. So, and basically, you know, as soon as the VA sends this over to, you know, all the QTC guys and all that kind of, you know, obviously it's going to get approved. But I was diagnosed with this in 2018 by a private doctor, and they wanted to put me on all kinds of narcotics, all kinds of, you know, and it's like, I have one of my best friends, just a quick story, going back to 2015. I hired this dude. He had just gotten out of prison, and he was an ex-Marine. I say ex because that's how he described himself, because he felt ashamed because he got arrested and got into trouble after he served. But he was a combat diver, right? So he was the equivalent of a SEAL.
Shit.
And he made E7 in 8 years in the Corps.
Wow.
Oh,
So this dude
That's
was high
fucking
speed. I don't
tough.
even know anybody in the Army that could make rank that fast. But anyway, he didn't retire. He only did like 12 years in service. Yeah, he did 12 years and he got out. He got into some trouble.
He got out as a gunny, and he did gunny in 8 years.
Yeah.
No fucking
Yeah.
way. That's fucking no way.
Dude, I saw his DD-214. I'm telling you, because I said the same thing. I was like, dude, you are crazy. And he, you know, he's just like, he got tired of it. He didn't want to do it anymore. And I can understand that. I've seen guys that have done the same thing. I mean, here again, I had 10 years in service, and I was a first lieutenant. You know, I didn't have to resign anything, but I still did, you know, but he was a good guy. And when he interviewed to work for me, he was interviewing one time. I was living up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he interviewed to work for me. And when I interviewed him, I didn't even need to really look at his resume. I was like, dude, man, you're hired. I can tell that you and me are going to be best friends. Anyway, the VA turned him into a heroin addict. I'm telling you, the VA fucked him up so bad. Man, they had him. His son got killed in Louisville, Kentucky in 2015. And he just couldn't take it anymore. So he ended up overdosing on heroin. He overdosed. He committed suicide by overdose. None of us even knew. So the dude had worked for me for 2 years. He was my best friend. And he just couldn't handle the problems. And I'm telling you, if it wouldn't have been for the VA, he would still be alive today. I'm very grateful for the VA for the help that they've given me. There's no doubt about it. But this experience, so, you know, when people talk about like soldier suicide and, you know, veteran suicide and this kind of stuff, there's no doubt that we still are suffering from this, even though the wars have ended a long time ago. People are going to be suffering for this. Our generation is going to be going, just like my dad's generation was all about the Vietnam stuff. My grandpa's was all about World War II. We are going to be facing this stuff for the rest of our lives. And it's like, you know, some people don't have a personal story. They don't need to have one because all they got to do is listen to ours. You know, does that make any sense?
Yep.
You know, so I don't even remember what the question was, but I think I kind of went off on a tangent.
He was just
my symptoms. Yeah, my symptoms.
Yeah. How you deal with your symptoms? And
okay, so that situation with my buddy that happened in 2018, I believe is what kind of sent me down this path of getting sick. And I ended up having to go to the hospital, to the emergency room a whole bunch of times. And they kept shooting me up with morphine every time I'd go up in there. And it freaked me out because of what had just happened to my best friend, right? He just died from a heroin overdose. And here's these doctors trying to shoot me up with morphine. And, you know, they're trying to prescribe me all these painkillers, all these narcotics. And it's like, no. Long story short, I sold everything in Georgia. I sold my entire business, and we moved here to Oklahoma specifically for medical marijuana. So I take Lyrica because I don't have a choice. I basically have to take Lyrica or I can't really even walk. But I also take a lot of medical marijuana. I take gummies. I don't smoke anything. I can't stand the taste. And I don't want unhealthy lungs. But I take a lot. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do any of that. I just all I do is take medical marijuana. Just
the gummies.
Yep, just the gummies. You know, I take about 100 milligrams, sometimes 150 milligrams a day.
Damn.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I like to not the pain. You know what I mean?
I
So,
tried one of those good. I tried just one, dude. I was fucked up in 30 minutes, man. That shit
yeah.
fucked me up.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I mean, it's one of those things. To me, I've done a lot of research on it. You know, my dad was kind of and it's here again, it's kind of a West Coast thing. My dad was really big into smoking weed and stuff, and you know, he was the perfect Sunday morning, you know, guy at church in a suit. But you know, he loved his weed, man. I'm telling you. But so that's really the best way that I've found. You know, there's times where I go into states where I literally like I'm just coming out of a stage where I couldn't walk for about 2 weeks, and so I use a cane. I'm not to the point where I need a wheelchair yet, but there's a couple of guys that I'm buddies with at the gym that also have, like, one guy has MS and the other guy has muscular dystrophy, and both of them, you know, like my grandpa died from Parkinson's, so this neurological stuff runs in my family. And here again, you know, the Army doesn't know what it came from. They don't know if it came from the burn pits. They don't know if it came from, you know, whatever anthrax shots, right? I'm sure we all got stories about that, right? Because I had to take a double batch of them, right? Because they lost my medical records when I came home from Korea.
I just had to take 3 doses, man. I didn't even get the whole, Ugh.
Yeah, it's craziness, but
that shit hurt like, oh man, that shit hurt like a motherfucker.
Well, and here, you know, you guys know the story, right? In 50 more years, they're going to come out and talk about, you know, they're going to release the top secret information that all of us dying from these cancers that they never knew of, and all this kind of stuff. That's another thing, is I had a tumor in my stomach that the VA just removed too. Luckily, there was no cancer. Yeah, there was no cancer, but they think it was a hernia that somehow formed in my stomach, and then scar tissue formed. It was a baseball-sized tumor. I mean, man, I was sedated for like 6 hours the other day while they took it out. But bottom line is I'm actually doing very well. I'm actually recovering. My so 6 months ago when I went in, I thought I was having a heart attack. You know, come to find out, my pancreas was shut down, and so my blood sugar was 480. So they put me on insulin. I was shooting up insulin like 4 or 5 times a day, trying to get my blood like my A1C. My A1C was like 15 or something like that. You know, it's not supposed to be higher than 7. And so, you know, I basically was like in ketoacidic shock, and I didn't even know it. I never even knew that. But here again, we think that it may have been caused from the testosterone, you know. So, but the MS stuff has been going on for many, many years. I've been feeling it probably for at least 12 years. It's just that when all that stuff happened with my buddy, I mean, it really depressed me, man. I mean, it sent me into a pretty, you know, I mean, it was messed up because I had just moved to Atlanta. And that's the thing is when I left, he wasn't really able to talk to anybody. And it's like, you know, I mean, he stayed up there in Northern Kentucky, and he couldn't take it, man. He couldn't take it. The pain was just too much. And I can honestly say this is maybe wrong for me to say, but if anything ever happened to my son, I don't know that I would be able to take it either. And that's the God's honest truth. I almost, in a way, think that he did himself a favor. I hate saying that now, but I almost think that the pain would have been so great for him his whole life. His whole life would have been spent doing drugs and getting in trouble. And, you know, to me, he was suffering. He just didn't know how to deal with it. But, you know, when we go through these experiences, and I'm telling you, the crazy thing about it all is that, like all of us, right, we've experienced like the death in war, and we've experienced all this kind of stuff. That kind of stuff never affected me that much. It was really the death of my dad and the death of my buddy that really has affected me more than anything that I've ever experienced. But it also sent me down this path of getting sicker and sicker and sicker, you know, and it took me a couple of years. This is why I say now I'm on the mend. I'm on the uphill battle, you know, because that stuff, it was just temporary, you know what I mean? And as long as, you know, if you believe that you can make it through this stuff, I really do think that's about 90% of the battle. You know what I mean? It comes down to willpower. But I'm going to get better. You know, I'm going to heal, and I'm going to get better. I mean, man, I've been through motorcycle wrecks. I've been through broken, you know, broken noses and broken, I mean, it's just a thing. But my focus now is 100% on podcasting and trying to get the message out there and trying, just like you guys, I want to talk to every veteran out there.
Say that's our goal too, man. And this is exactly why we do this, because we want veterans out there to know that there's other people that done the same thing you've done, and they're struggling in life too. You're not alone. That's our message, man. Yeah, like, don't kill yourself. There's hope for you. That there's other people that are going through the same thing you're going through. If you need help, call us, man. I wrote a cookbook real quick here, right? There's a QR code here in the back. So whoever buys this cookbook, I don't know, I've sold hundreds and hundreds of these. Every single person that has my cookbook has my contact information in it. And it says right in there, if you have dark thoughts, scan this freaking barcode, call me. If I can't help you out, I'm going to call Andrew Farr. If he can't help you out, I guarantee you, we're going to find somebody before we hang up the phone. We'll find somebody to get you through this.
Yeah. Well, Ken, that's it right there, man. Yep.
And Ken, I'm I'm actually in the process of telling our post about this interview.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd love to talk to anybody you guys ever have that ever wants to.
Hey, I got a list. I got a list for you. We've got a Silkies hike in Oklahoma. There's a Silkies hike in Billings, Montana. I don't know if you've ever heard of Donnie O'Malley and Vet TV.
Yeah. Okay. I was just talking about him. Yeah.
Well, he was a good buddy of mine. I used to work for him for Irreverent Warriors for like 3 years, and he came up with Vet TV. He gave us the Irreverent Warriors Silkies hike. Like, I'm going to be doing like 5 hikes this year, and I'm going to give you the list. I mean, we've got 125 plus cities all over the world. Trieste, Italy, Guam, Frankfurt, Germany, London, all over America. I mean, go to these hikes, wear the Silkies, put your boots on, wave your flag, walk around these cities, and you know what? Joke and be real with people. And you know what? You're going to get like 50 new friends every single damn hike.
Yep. Exactly.
I'm going to send you that.
I'm down with it. Whatever you guys got going on, I'm down with it for real.
You got it, Ken.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
We need to get more people like you talking to everybody.
For sure. Yeah.
Getting them to fucking listen.
Yep. I mean, that is 100% what we're about, man. We're tired of the news. We're tired of the tribalism. We want people to just listen and talk and tell. We don't want anger. We don't want pain. We want people to actually be able to open up and relate. You know what I mean? Yep. And it's like, man, if they can just stop being so sensitive for a few minutes, we might actually get somewhere.
That's gonna be a tough one. That's gonna be a tough one. Because apparently my VFW, our VFW, we're filled with watered down veterans.
There's a lot of those, believe it or not. There's a lot of those. There's a lot of those.
Apparently we're watered down veterans. Apparently, I didn't get the memo. Fleek, did you get the memo? Because I didn't get the memo on that.
So that's a little inside jab. Yeah,
it is a little bit. Yeah, but you know what? Nobody's gonna get it except for one person.
So, Rich, did I answer your question completely?
Yeah. Yep, you did. Yep. All right.
That was a good one, man.
Yes. So this was a pleasant surprise, man. So I'm super happy you came on. That was a great story. Dude, but before we let you go, we always try to get some insight out of our listener. Like, usually what we go for is, like, if you run into a 17 or 18-year-old kid, say 17, 18-year-old Ken, just about to walk into the recruiter's office. What insight would you give this young man or young lady before he steps in and gets face-to-face with a recruiter, or steps on the yellow footsteps, or gets on the bus, or just prior to the military?
Yeah, you said yellow footprints. Hell yeah.
Yeah, sure. And you know, I would say this. I would say I personally believe in being all you can be, right? I believe whatever you do in life, try to be the best at it. right? If you're going to go into the seminary, right, be the best preacher that you can be. If you're going, and so what I would tell a young kid that's getting ready to think about enlisting or anything like that, I would say that it all comes down to options, right? As humans, we want to take the best option that's going to elevate us in life. And so I would advise that young person to sit there and say, okay, what are your options if you don't do this compared to what are your options if you do, compared to what are your options if you just go to college or, something like that. And I try to tell them, there's so many different opportunities that are allowed in each branch of the service. Each one of them is so different. If you have the option to pick and choose, pick the one that suits you the best. I joined the Army because it was the only one that would take me. But I could have just as easily been a Marine. I could have just as, I didn't need to be, same thing. I wanted to be an infantryman, but, I wanted to be an airborne ranger. I wanted to be a special forces guy, right? That's what I wanted to do. And so to me, it wouldn't have mattered if I would have joined the Army or if I would have done anything. I just needed to be set on a path that led me somewhere correct. And this is what I would tell these kids. I would say, no matter what you do, whether you join or not, just pick a path that's going to benefit you and elevate you in life. I tell everybody, show me your 3 best friends and I'll show you your future. You know what I mean? So Thank God I never had to do recruiter duty because I probably would have sent half of them home.
Yep.
But, because honestly, to me, there is a selection process, right? I mean, you don't want some of these kids joining that are joining. So I probably would have been kicked off recruiter duty. But, that's what I would tell a young kid. I would tell them, you need to research every single one of your options. You need to sit down, and even if it's sitting down with me and talking about it, I'm not a career counselor. I'm just some, punk ass dude that got lucky and was in the right place in the right time a few times in my life. But I would still try to advise. I mean, I'll tell you straight up, if I've got a kid that's a high aptitude kid, that has a high IQ and that is coming from a little bit more, I won't call it privilege, but I'd call it an upper class family. I would probably recommend to that kid to look at all of his options, because we need the people that don't serve that pay for our military just as much as we do the people that do serve. And this is kind of a hot subject, right? Because a lot of people think that everybody out there should serve. I'm not against that if we have a mandatory service, a mandatory enlistment. But when we do have a volunteer army, then you got to take it for what it's worth. Right? You have a small percentage of people who volunteer and a large majority who don't. So I would rather pick and choose my enlistees based off of kind of more drive instead of just anybody who wants to do it. You know what I mean? In other words, I wouldn't let just anybody, myself, I probably would have told myself, if I would have been a different recruiter, I probably would have told myself, like, dude, you might not be good enough. That's what everybody else was telling me. Everybody else that I knew was like, dude, you're garbage. You're never going to make it. Luckily, I had a recruiter that took a chance on me. And so I like taking those kind of guys and saying, man, what do you want to do in life? What is it? How can we turn your life around? And how can we actually make you a productive member? Whether it's through military service or whether it's through an apprenticeship. Like I love taking young guys that, have never done anything and let them train to become a carpenter or a heavy equipment operator. And that's a luxury that I have owning a construction company. I can take young guys and train them. And I talk shit to them sometimes, like, man, you all need some discipline. Y'all need to join the damn Army. But deep down inside, I also know that those kids probably aren't the right ones for that role, because they're just, they've got more things, different things. I wouldn't say more, but they've got different things going on for them, different options.
Dude, that was very stoic. That was a perfect answer. I like it.
I don't believe in just recruiting people to recruit them, right? I mean, because if you guys actually listen to me, I don't even believe in having an active duty military. So that's another debate for, probably another day.
That will be podcast number 2 with Ken Gouchi. That one.
Exactly.
I want to hear that one.
Yeah, so I would love to talk about it. So anytime you guys want me to come back, but that's what I would tell a young person trying to join the military. I tell them, look at your options. You don't have to join if you don't want to, but as long as you're going to do something better to elevate yourself in life instead of taking yourself down.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability. Be grateful that you had the opportunity to do it, and don't look back, man. Don't have regrets. You know, I tell everybody I've got 2 regrets in my life. One of them is that I wish I would have became a Freemason a little younger, probably as soon as I was allowed. Sometimes it's 18, sometimes it's 21, depending on the state. And I wish that I would have started my business younger. I wish that I would have only done my first 3 years in the Army, and I wish I would not have done any of the other 7 years. I wish that I would have done my first 3 years. I would have done it for free. I would have done the whole thing for free. Like I said, I didn't join as a patriot, but I became a patriot real quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the military will do that.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean, though, is I was wrong. I was not geared. I was not one of those people that was geared to do multiple enlistments or multiple terms. It hurt me psychologically to do more than what my first 3 years, I should have got out, and I should have started a company, and I should have focused on that company. I am an entrepreneur. I'm not a soldier, even though I wanted to be all these fancy things when I was a kid, right? Because I saw all my uncles coming home from, all these decorations and medals and stuff on their chest. It's like, man, that's what I want to be. But in all honesty, I was never geared to be a soldier. I did good. I made rank quick, but I also had better things to do that would have elevated me beyond doing that long in the service, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, stepping stone.
Yeah, exactly. It was my stepping stone. I never wanted it to be my life story. You know what I mean? And so, and I feel bad for guys that's all they have. It's like, man, you guys need to, go join the VFW, man. Find a hobby or something. Holy cow.
Get out. Take a meeting
exactly.
or something.
But anyway, guys, I got to get going. Man,
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
This has been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
All right. We're going to hit the end stream. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you to our listeners. Thanks, everybody. See you guys next Sunday.
All right. See you guys.